Angina pectoris is one of the most tested topics in pharmacology and one of the most important conditions in cardiology. In this video, you'll learn exactly what angina is, its types and causes, the full classification of antianginal drugs, their mechanisms of action, doses, rational drug combinations, and adverse effects. Stay till the end for a quick recap you can use for revision. Angina pectoris literally means strangling pain in the chest. It's a clinical syndrome of paroxysmal chest pain or discomfort, usually felt behind the breastbone, caused by transient myocardial ischemia. In simple terms, it happens when the heart muscle demands more oxygen than the coronary arteries can currently deliver. There are three major types of angina. Number 1, stable angina, also called classic or exertional angina. This is the most common type, caused by fixed atherosclerotic narrowing of the coronary arteries. Pain occurs predictably during exertion, emotional stress, or cold exposure and is relieved by rest or nitrates within minutes. Number 2, unstable angina. This results from rupture of an atherosclerotic plaque with a superimposed blood clot. It occurs at rest or with minimal exertion, with increasing frequency, duration, and severity. This is considered a medical emergency and falls under acute coronary syndrome. Number 3, variant angina, also known as Prinzmetal's angina or vasospastic angina. This is caused by coronary artery spasm rather than fixed blockage. It typically occurs at rest, often at night or early morning, in a cyclical pattern and shows ST segment elevation on ECG during the attack. At its core, angina results from myocardial oxygen demand exceeding supply. Decreased oxygen supply can result from coronary atherosclerosis, coronary artery spasm, anemia, or hypotension. Increased oxygen demand can result from physical exertion, emotional stress, tachycardia, hypertension, thyrotoxicosis, or exposure to cold weather. Underlying risk factors for coronary artery disease include smoking, diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, obesity, a sedentary lifestyle, and family history. Antianginal drugs are classified into 5 major classes. Class 1, nitrates. Short-acting ones include glyceryl trinitrate, also called nitroglycerin, and amyl nitrite. Long-acting ones include isosorbide dinitrate, isosorbide mononitrate, and erythritol tetranitrate. Class 2, Beta-Adrenergic Blockers, including propranolol, metoprolol, atenolol, bisoprolol, and nebivolol. Class 3, Calcium channel blockers. These are divided into dihydropyridines, like nifedipine, amlodipine, and felodipine, and non-dihydropyridines like verapamil and diltiazem. Class 4, Potassium channel opener, Nicorandil, which also carries nitrate-like activity. Class 5, miscellaneous or newer antianginal drugs. This group includes Ivabradine, an IF channel blocker, Ranolazine, a late sodium current inhibitor, and Trimetazidine, a metabolic modulator. Nitrates act by releasing nitric oxide inside vascular smooth muscle. This nitric oxide activates guanylyl cyclase, increasing cyclic GMP, which causes the myosin light chain to dephosphorylate, relaxing vascular smooth muscle. At low doses, nitrates predominantly cause venodilation, reducing venous return, preload, and wall tension, which lowers oxygen demand. At higher doses, they also dilate arterioles, reducing afterload. Nitrates relieve coronary artery spasm, making them especially useful in variant angina, and they redistribute coronary blood flow toward ischemic areas of the heart. Beta blockers work by blocking beta-1 adrenergic receptors in the heart. This decreases heart rate, decreases the force of contraction, and lowers myocardial oxygen consumption. It also increases diastolic filling time, improving coronary perfusion, since coronary blood flow occurs mainly during diastole. Beta blockers are most effective in stable, exertional angina, since they blunt the tachycardia response to exercise. They are generally avoided in variant angina, since unopposed alpha-mediated vasoconstriction could worsen coronary spasm. Calcium channel blockers work by blocking L-type calcium channels. Dihydropyridines like nifedipine and amlodipine act mainly on vascular smooth muscle, causing arteriolar dilation, reducing afterload, and relieving coronary spasm, useful in variant angina. Non-dihydropyridines, like verapamil and diltiazem, act on both blood vessels and the heart, causing vasodilation plus reduced heart rate and contractility. In terms of heart rate lowering potency, verapamil is strongest, followed by diltiazem, then nifedipine. Nicorandil has a dual mechanism. First, a nitrate-like component that releases nitric oxide, causing venodilation. Second, it opens ATP-sensitive potassium channels, hyperpolarizing vascular smooth muscle and dilating arterioles, reducing afterload. It also mimics ischemic preconditioning, giving it a cardioprotective effect beyond simple vasodilation. The fifth class covers newer agents, each working through a distinct mechanism. Ivabradine selectively inhibits the IF, or funny, current in the sinoatrial node. This slows the rate of diastolic depolarization, reducing heart rate without affecting contractility or blood pressure. A useful option for patients who cannot tolerate beta blockers. Ranolazine inhibits the late inward sodium current in heart muscle cells. This reduces intracellular sodium and, in turn, calcium overload, improving diastolic relaxation and reducing wall tension, all without significantly affecting heart rate or blood pressure. Trimetazidine is a metabolic modulator. It inhibits 3-ketoacyl-CoA thiolase, an enzyme in fatty acid oxidation, shifting the heart's energy metabolism toward glucose oxidation, which requires less oxygen per unit of ATP produced. Importantly, it has no effect on heart rate or blood pressure. Here are commonly referenced doses. Please note these may vary by clinical guideline and patient factors, so always verify against current prescribing references. Glyceryl trinitrate sublingual, 0.3 to 0.6 milligrams. Repeated every 5 minutes, up to 3 doses. Transdermal patch, 5 to 15 milligrams per day. Isosorbide dinitrate, 5 to 20 milligrams, 2 to 3 times daily. Isosorbide mononitrate, 20 to 40 milligrams twice daily. Propranolol, 40 to 80 milligrams, 2 to 3 times daily. Atenolol, 25 to 100 milligrams once daily. Metoprolol, 25 to 100 milligrams twice daily. Amlodipine, 5 to 10 milligrams once daily. Nifedipine extended release, 30 to 90 milligrams once daily. Verapamil, 80 to 120 milligrams, 2 to 3 times daily. Diltiazem, 30 to 90 milligrams, 3 times daily. Nicorandil, 5 to 20 milligrams, twice daily. From the fifth class, Ivabradine, 5 to 7.5 milligrams, twice daily. Ranolazine, 500 to 1,000 milligrams twice daily. Trimetazidine, 20 milligrams 3 times daily, or the modified release version, 35 milligrams twice daily. Combining antianginal drugs is common practice, since it targets multiple mechanisms and can offset each other's side effects. Nitrates plus beta blockers is an excellent combination. Nitrates cause reflex tachycardia, which beta blockers prevent, while beta blockers increase ventricular volume and wall tension, which nitrates help reduce.
Nitrates plus dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers is also a good combination, producing additive vasodilation through different mechanisms. Beta blockers plus dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers is another commonly used and effective combination. However, one combination should generally be avoided: beta blockers together with verapamil or diltiazem. Both reduce heart rate and contractility, so combining them significantly raises the risk of severe bradycardia, AV block, and heart failure. Let's go through adverse effects class by class. Class 1, nitrates, commonly cause headache due to meningeal vessel dilation, along with postural hypotension, reflex tachycardia, and flushing. Continuous use can lead to tolerance, so a nitrate-free interval is needed. Very high doses can rarely cause metmegalobulinemia. Class 2, beta blockers can cause bradycardia, bronchospasm, so they're avoided in asthma and COPD. Fatigue, cold extremities, masking of hypoglycemia symptoms in diabetics, and erectile dysfunction. Abrupt withdrawal can trigger rebound angina or hypertension. Class 3, calcium channel blockers. Dihydropyridines commonly cause flushing, headache, ankle edema, and reflex tachycardia. Verapamil commonly causes constipation, bradycardia, and AV block. Diltiazem has an intermediate side effect profile. Class 4, Nicorandil, causes headache and flushing, and notably oral and anal ulcerations, a distinctive adverse effect worth remembering. Class 5, the miscellaneous group. Ivabradine is known for causing visual disturbances, described as luminous phenomena or phosphenes, along with bradycardia. Ranolazine can cause QT interval prolongation, constipation, dizziness, and nausea. Trimetazidine can cause GI disturbances and, rarely, Parkinsonism-like symptoms, so it's contraindicated in patients with Parkinson's disease. Quick recap: angina is chest pain from a mismatch between myocardial oxygen supply and demand. There are three types: stable, unstable, and variant. Antianginal drugs fall into five major classes: nitrates, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, the potassium channel opener Nicorandil, and a fifth miscellaneous class covering Ivabradine, Ranolazine, and Trimetazidine. Nitrates plus beta blockers is the classic rational combination, while beta blockers with verapamil or diltiazem should be avoided. And remember the standout side effects. Nicorandil causes ulcers, ivabradine causes visual phenomena, and trimetazidine can cause Parkinsonism. That covers everything you need to know about anti-anginal drugs. If this video helped you, consider subscribing for more pharmacology content, and check the description for more resources. Thanks for watching.